Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, Israel and Saudi Arabia moving closer and closer to a possible historic agreement to normalize relations, which could change the face of the Middle East. We're going to bring you the story from Jerusalem. A controversial law in Illinois requiring pro-life workers to promote abortion, now facing a court challenge as attorneys say it violates the Constitution. Republican presidential candidates set for their second debate tonight at the Reagan Library. That event coming as many question whether the GOP has moved away from Reagan's conservative principles to a more populist vision. We'll look at the debate. And Jose Hernandez wanted to be an astronaut ever since he was a child, and even though NASA turned him down 11 times, he did not give up. Now his story is told in a new film, A Million Miles Away. And we'll bring you your Studio 5 conversation with him. All those stories and more today on CBN NewsWatch.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
Let's begin this half hour with the possibility of an historic agreement to normalize relations between Saudi Arabia and Israel. Israel's Torah minister arrived in Saudi Arabia Tuesday, the first time an Israeli cabinet minister has led a delegation to the Saudi kingdom. It comes after the Saudi crown prince talked about the important progress between the two countries. CBN Middle East correspondent Chris Mitchell brings us the story now from Jerusalem.
Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman told Fox News' Brett Baer Saudi Arabia may normalize relations with Israel.
Every day we get closer. It seems it's for the first time a real one, serious.
Bin Salman told Baer the Palestinian issue is central to the deal.
For us, the Palestinian issue is very important. We need to solve that part, and we have a good negotiations continue. Till now, we gotta see where it will go. We hope that it will reach a place that it will ease the life of the Palestinians and get Israel back as a player in the Middle East.
In their first meeting since Prime Minister Netanyahu took office, he told President Biden that with U.S. help, normal relations with Saudi Arabia are within reach.
We can forge a historic peace between Israel and Saudi Arabia, and I think such a peace would go a long way, first to advance the end of the Arab-Israeli conflict, achieve reconciliation between the Islamic world and the Jewish state, and advance a genuine peace between Israel and the Palestinians.
In light of the potential agreement and likely Israeli concessions to the Palestinian Authority, Rabbi Leo D., whose wife and two daughters were murdered in a terror attack, wrote an open letter to President Biden and Crown Prince bin Salman, calling on them to require the Palestinian leadership to stop rewarding terrorists. He wrote in part, "It is up to you to demand as part of the peace agreement that is taking shape that the Palestinian Authority immediately annul the laws that reward the perpetrators of terrorist acts. My beloved wife and daughters, who never hurt a soul, would still be with me today if the PA was not providing terrorist families with financial incentives." The threat of a nuclear Iran represents an existential threat to both Israel and Saudi Arabia. And bin Salman warned if Iran gets a nuclear weapon, his country will too. Netanyahu encouraged President Biden to continue standing against a nuclear Iran.
I think that's critical. And that shared goal of ours can be best achieved by a credible military threat, crippling sanctions, and supporting the brave men and women of Iran who despise that regime and who are our real partners for a better future.
To help seal the deal, the Biden administration is considering a mutual U.S. defense pact with Saudi Arabia. That would compel the United States to come to the defense of the Desert Kingdom if it's attacked, a proposal that may require Senate approval. If normalization does come between Israel and Saudi Arabia, it has the potential to transform the Middle East. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Here at home, pro-life pregnancy centers and medical workers in Illinois are mandated by law to promote abortion. The state passed that law in 2016, and after 6 long years, pro-lifers finally had their day in court. The plaintiffs say the order forces them to violate their oath to do no harm. Appearing in federal court, their attorneys argued it also violates the Constitution. CBN's Caitlin Burke brings us this story.
This law is really about the government of Illinois attempting to coerce individuals who are medical professionals and pro-life pregnancy centers, compel them to say something that violates their deeply held religious convictions regarding life.
The Illinois law required pro-life centers and doctors to not only refer patients out for abortions, but also talk about the benefits. In 2017, just 1 year after the law passed, a federal court issued an injunction halting its enforcement. Kevin Terrio, an attorney with Alliance Defending Freedom, says it's time to put the issue to rest once and for all.
There's no baseline thing that requires medical professionals who have a conscientious objection to abortion to talk about its benefits or refer people for it, and that would violate the First Amendment to the United States Constitution.
Similar laws have been challenged in other states. Terrio says the Supreme Court already set precedent for this back in 2018 with National Institute of Family and Life Advocates v. Becerra.
It's really the same question, and that is whether the government can target an individual because of their religious convictions and make them violate those religious convictions. And so we're cautiously optimistic that this court is going to agree with NIFLA versus Becerra and say that that's binding.
Terrio says this case is about both free speech and religious freedom, and on multiple occasions, the High Court has held that an individual can't be compelled to say something that violates their deepest convictions. The Free Exercise Clause of the First Amendment also says the government can't target you because of your religious beliefs. A ruling on this case is expected by early next year, and in the meantime, the injunction halting enforcement still stands. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Washington.
A Christian homeschool family that was granted asylum in the United States 15 years ago after facing persecution in Germany will be deported to their home country on orders from the Biden administration. Yuva and Hanel Oramaika began homeschooling in Germany because they did not want their children exposed to things like witchcraft and graphic sex education taught in German schools. A few weeks after the couple began to homeschool their children, police showed up at their home and took their children to public school. The police eventually took custody of the children every morning to take them to public school and would bring them home each afternoon. They fled Germany in 2008 after facing criminal prosecution for homeschooling their 5 children, and they came to the United States. Now you can read this full story at cbnnews.com. This morning, school students in America and around the world gather at their flagpoles to pray. The annual See You at the Pole event started in Texas in 1990. Today, an estimated 1 million students across the U.S. and around the world are expected to take part, as they did last year and in previous years. They gather to sing, read scripture, and above all, ask God for his blessing on their schools, their friends, their leaders, and their country. See You at the Pole has led to Bible clubs, weekly prayer meetings, and other ministries on the campuses where students are taking part. Coming up, tonight marks the second Republican presidential candidate debate, this one at the Reagan Library in California. It's been more than 40 years since Reagan's revolution, and the GOP hopefuls are still paying homage to him. But some are asking, has the Republican Party changed since the days of the Gipper? We're going to have a look at that question when we come back.
Your news channel, your shows, the stories you care about. Anytime you want, anywhere you want. Download the CBN News app today.
Tonight brings the second Republican presidential debate, and once again, former President Donald Trump will not be on stage. The economy, specifically inflation, and the crisis at the border are top issues for voters. As we mentioned, this debate will be held at the Reagan Presidential Library in California. The debate comes as the Republican Party has gone through major changes in recent years. Once the party of Reagan, some analysts argue that some party leaders are now far from the Gipper's conservative ideals. It is not just at the top. Polls show many voters have different views on some foreign policy, economic, and cultural issues. CBN's David Brody takes a closer look at the change among many Republicans, from Reaganism to populism.
The last time Republicans debated in Simi Valley, participants included then-candidate Donald Trump, one of the reasons the GOP is no longer considered the party of Reagan.
Today, a populist movement is rising in the Republican Party.
Former VP and presidential candidate Mike Pence prefers a return to those days of Reagan conservatism and opposes Trump's version of today's GOP.
In the days to come, will we be the party of conservatism? Or will we follow the siren song of populism unmoored to conservative principles. The future of this movement and this party belongs to one or the other, not both.
Make no mistake, Donald Trump has changed the Republican Party, something retiring Senator Mitt Romney regrets.
Well, there's no question but that the Republican Party today is in the shadow of Donald Trump. He is the leader of the greatest portion of the Republican Party. It's a populist, I believe, demagogue portion of the party. Look, I represent a small wing of the party, if you will. I call it the wise wing of the Republican Party. And I don't believe we're going away. I think ultimately we'll see a resurgence and come back into leadership of the party.
That doesn't seem likely, because while Trump gets the credit, this version of the GOP has been developing over decades, and the statistics bear that out. Coming out of Reagan and into the Bush years, 62% of Republicans preferred to reduce the debt rather than protect entitlements. Now, only 29% feel that way. And back then, 53% felt America should be more active abroad. But after attempts at nation building and the post-9/11 wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, Republicans became fed up, and that number is much lower today at 24%. Steve Toth is a state senator from Texas.
It's been aided by 24/7 news coverage that has brought a lot of coverage to the industrial war complex that exists in Washington, D.C. in the Uniparty. And I think people are just sick and tired of it.
And the culture wars are far worse today than at any time in modern American history.
Ronald Reagan did not have to deal with critical race theory. Ronald Reagan didn't have to deal with the covert transitioning of our children in our public schools from male to female or female to male. Ronald Reagan didn't have to deal with abortion through not 9 months, but 10 months. And so there is an outrage in the United States that has called for a new kind of politician, a new kind of office holder that is not going to talk a good talk, but is actually going to have to deliver some results.
Enter Donald Trump marching toward a more blue-collar populist party that's also operating in a very different political environment. The days of working across the aisle are almost non-existent. Long gone are the days when Reagan and then Democrat House Speaker Tip O'Neill shared a cozy personal relationship.
One day I picked up the paper and read where he had made a statement about me that was pretty harsh. And I called him and I said, Tip, I thought we had a relationship here where we could do business together and all. And now I read in the paper that you said, and he interrupted me and said, well, old buddy, that's just politics. He said, after 6 o'clock, we're buddies, we're friends.
Along with the cordial relationships disappearing and trust in the federal government eroding, pessimism seems to rule the day now. While Reagan focused on the shining city on a hill, today 40% of Americans feel Republican leaders are mostly pessimistic when they talk about the country's future. To be clear, Reagan and Trump have two similar core underpinnings: champion traditional family policies with the mantra of less government.
I believe Ronald Reagan would have attacked these issues the same way that Donald Trump has. It would have been a little bit more nuanced, would have been a little friendlier, right? But he would have attacked it nonetheless the exact same way.
So what are we to make of the GOP's future? Will it be a full-on embrace of populism or something else?
I think when you look at these candidates, you see them all recognize the fact that the future of the right, the future of the Republican Party, is going to be some uneasy, sometimes complementary synthesis of Reagan conservatism and Trump populism.
And what that ends up as is anyone's guess. David Brody, CBN News, Washington.
Still ahead, he wanted to be an astronaut since he was a child, even though NASA told him not once, not twice, but 11 times he couldn't. But that did not stop him. Now his remarkable story is a movie, and we'll get to hear from him right after this. Welcome back to CBN NewsWatch. It is an out-of-this-world true story. As a child, Jose Hernandez decided he wanted to be an astronaut, and he relentlessly pursued his space dreams for years, even as NASA denied him admission some 11 times. His story is being told in a film a million miles away. We sat down with Jose and the film's director.
So, what's your big goal, dream?
I want to be an astronaut. I wanted this for almost 30 years.
Ma, ¿para qué sirven las estrellas?
Every decision I've made with the space program in mind.
Jose, so many children grow up wanting to be astronauts at some point. What is it about your story that made you stick it out for so long?
When I saw the very last man walk on the moon on TV, astronaut Gene Cernan, that's when the dream was conceived that I was going to be an astronaut. And I never looked back from after that. I said, that's what I'm going to do. That's my calling.
I'm Jose Hernandez, sir. I'm an engineer.
You're the new guy, right? That third floor men's room needs toilet paper.
That's what I ended up doing, and I was so glad that I had that ingrown perseverance in me that never allowed me to give up.
What was it inside that never allowed you to give up? Was it family? Was it faith? What was it?
I think it was a combination of a family, faith, and the work ethic.
Going to space, it's a stupid dream. Last 10 candidates were chosen from 12,962 applicants. It's never gonna happen.
Those people who got into the program, what do they have that you don't?
Many people say they're surprised that I became an astronaut in spite of being a migrant farm worker.
Yeah.
And I tell them, you're wrong. I became an astronaut because I was a migrant farm worker. That's where I developed my work ethic, the can't give up attitude.
They have skills that I don't have. It's taken them years to get where they are, but there's no guarantee.
Our director, Alejandra Marquez Abella, did a great job at dignifying the work of a farm worker.
We grew up watching our people make sacrifices. It's on us now.
Tenacity is a superpower.
He grew up in the fields. You know, he learned about resilience and hard work, and he got his work ethic from getting up at 4 a.m. to go and help his family. It's a heroic thing to do.
I know this is hard on everybody. My body hurts, I can't sleep. I know I can make this work.
What was the most prevailing theme for you?
I think community, you know, and I have aversion to individualism. I think that everyone should, collaborate and more openly be helpful to others and their dreams.
This may not be your future, but it will always be your past.
Who better to leave this planet and dive into the unknown than a migrant farm worker?
I cry every time I see the film, and I've seen it thousands of times. It's the soul of the story, something that it's bigger than the form or than anything. It's something that connects with people.
Over the last 10 years, I've applied to the space program 12 times, and I've been on the verge of giving up after each and every rejection. But you know what, sir? Here I am. So you could turn me down again, but rest assured, I'll be standing here again in a year.
Do you have a hope for the project as it's released and people are able to consume and see the story?
I think we are living in times where we have an audience that can be very cynical. And I think this is a very touching, emotional, simple story that I hope will connect with that and will make that cynicism go away a little bit and just reconnect with the good stuff.
You're not crying, are you, Pa?
No, hombre, no. Some dirt got into my eye.
A Million Miles Away is streaming now on Amazon Prime. This Friday, we're going to have an extended conversation with Jose Hernandez on our new podcast. It's called Conversations from Studio 5. It's available on all major streaming platforms, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And for more uplifting entertainment news, be sure to join us for an all-new edition of Studio 5. It's happening tonight. We're going to talk to a woman who is an integral part of fighting for diversity and inclusion in the world of fashion. She is fashion icon Beth Ann Hardison. We're going to take a look at her new documentary, Invisible Beauty, and talk about her life as well. You can catch it on the CBN News Channel at our new time. That is at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can also watch it on the CBN News app or on YouTube. Coming up, a new documentary tells the behind-the-scenes story of the popular Christian singing group Casting Crowns. We're going to bring you a first-hand look when we come back. Stay with us.
Download the CBN News app. One place for all of your news. Breaking news alerts. Watch CBN News Channel Live. CBN News, because truth matters. Get the CBN News app today.
A new documentary tells the story of the popular Christian group Casting Crowns. The film, called Home by Sunday, gives audiences a behind-the-scenes view of the band's music and ministry. Here's a preview.
They have sold over 13 million albums.
Casting Crowns!
We did not understand that all this music comes out of this place.
That's why music is powerful, because it can point us to the Father.
And the film also shows what their lives are like when they're not on stage, like homeschooling for their children on the road. And despite the group's fame, lead singer and songwriter Mark Hall says his most important title is youth pastor. Screenings for Home by Sunday will begin November 30th. Tickets go on sale today, and you can get them by going to castingcrownsmovie.com. Time now for your Wednesday word, and today's word is love. Remember this, love is not just a noun or a verb, it's a force and a person. His name is Jesus. He is love, and his life, death, and resurrection are living proof. Never forget, Jesus went to Calvary to save a wretch like you and me, and that is indeed love. Well, that will do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. I want to remind you, you can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News channel. You can find them there at any time, as well as online. Of course, that address is cbnnews.com. We would love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today or any day. You can email us. The address is right there at the bottom of your screen. That is newswatch@cbn.com. And of course, you can always reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We certainly would love to hear from you. Make it a wonderful Wednesday. Come back and join us right here again tomorrow. Goodbye. God bless.